Most of the team leaders that I know, they're using almost 50% of their money to fight you. And that's the thing that we're most familiar with and what we're seeing a lot throughout Canada right now.
You are only getting this from that like 10 to 20% of people who actually comment online.
In
Yeah.
order to get perspective to know what to do, you have to do a lot of things wrong. And
Yeah.
I think the most effective approach is be okay with making mistakes, but don't make them
Yeah.
twice. If they could just order what they want like Amazon, there would be none of us.
Like this is something going back years and years and years. Super effective.
Almost like attack it from different angles. That's why we're using different authors and things so that you can start to get options.
It'll eventually start being able to pull those different threads the way that people do to kind of form an opinion.
Welcome to the Leadership. This is a real estate magazine podcast with the owner of Real Estate Magazine, Andrew Fogliato, who's also the founder of Just Sell Homes, a real estate marketing company so that real estate agents can just sell homes. Real estate agents like me, I'm a real estate agent and team leader in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and we like to talk about kind of the middle or where marketing and sales meet, ways that you can keep your real estate business on the tracks and kind of make this a lifestyle that you like because there's a whole bunch of tortured realtors out there.
Yeah, actually, I was talking about this today with someone because they were asking. Actually, I go on every Thursday morning. I go on a 5:45 a.m. hike, and a guy asked me, he's like, "Oh, like, what do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm in real estate," because that's an easier answer than explaining the different businesses and everything. And he's like, "Oh, like realtor around here." And I was like, and then you had to get into like the whole thing, but he was talking about like how he knew someone who got into it, and they were like, then the more she learned about it and the hours and all this stuff, and I was like, well, yeah, like that part kind of sucked, but like it only has to suck for a little bit until you build a team. Then you can get the junior people to do the evenings and weekends or a lot of that. Like it ends up, if you set it the right way, giving you more freedom probably than most careers, but like the difference is you have to be really intentional about setting that up. And that's where most people
Hmm.
aren't. Like most people don't put that kind of extra intention behind, all right, I want to take myself out of evenings and weekends. Like I'm very intentional with even my business. Like I almost will not do anything after 5. Like if I'm going to a conference, of course. But maybe in terms of like non-conference after 5 now, I won't take calls. I won't typically go. I maybe go to 1 or 2 night events a year around here.
Isn't that what
And
freedom
that's
is, though? Freedom is the ability to choose.
yeah. I
You
said
know,
like permanent blocks in my calendar. Pick up kids. That's middle of the day. I
I remember
block.
Junior Andrew, right? Like
Yeah.
we've been hanging out for a long time. And I
Yeah.
remember the time where you were actually competing with sleep in getting things done.
Yeah.
And that was like the pumping part of this to make it go.
Yeah.
But then over time, there's some things that you just want to block off so that you can have a life.
Yeah.
But then there's other things that you actually have to stay out of that zone because it's too far under your earning level. And if you keep
Yeah.
doing the little jobs, there will be no room left in your schedule to do the big jobs.
Now, one part about this, because this is what I hear a lot of like gurus and stuff talk about. It's like anything that like, let's say your hourly rate's 100 an hour just to keep it simple and clean. Like anything under that, then you should hire someone to do. Which I agree with the concept. But what most people then leave out is that like, okay, but now you have to do something with that time that's worth 100 an hour or more. A lot of people end up just like, oh, I'm just gonna like mess around now, or not really
Yeah, they
like,
don't see that it's a trade.
yeah, like
Like
there
you're
is the
giving this
arbitrage there.
person this so that something else can happen at the same time,
Yeah,
right? And sometimes that's rest and recovery or family time or other
yeah,
things like that. But during the time where it's like a game day time, you
yeah,
need to be in, like, you need to be pushing yourself to be over that benchmark.
yeah,
Like you're trying to elevate your hourly rate by not getting caught up in these other things. Because the reason it's $100 an hour is you're probably still doing a few of those 20 and $25 an hour jobs.
yeah.
But then
But
once you
like,
free that up and actually have a plan, that I think is where it's missing.
yeah, it's like if like for me, I know creating content's one of like the best things I can do for leverage, and I generally create better content than I think a lot of people. Um, and if I'm like paying someone to do something, that means I got to be trying to do more of that, do more sales calls, partnership calls, like the things that drive revenue. Like I have to focus on what those are. Like,
Gerard is first in the
yeah,
chat. How's
I
it
like
going,
it.
Gerard? We'd really love to know where you're from. And if you're joining us in the studio audience, just pop in. Tell us where you're from. Real estate is
Yeah,
geographic.
this is interactive.
Yeah, we see some of the usual suspects here, like the
Yeah,
Godlintons from Lethbridge.
yeah,
See you, Ryan. Um, and Gerard is saying that his hourly rate is $250 an hour.
yeah. I think that's so. I'm guessing he has a team or as a higher end solo agent based on that. Because like yeah, typically I would say like once you're established, I'd say most agents end up valuing it in that 250 to 5 range. Um, is where a lot are. Like I know teams doing like 100 plus deals a year, typically the team leader will say somewhere in that like 250 to 5 would be what
I
they
got
try
some
to
question
value that.
marks, right?
Yeah, like it's
Because like
different.
everybody evaluates this different. So a lot of times when people are talking about their hourly rate, it depends on what industry, but what lawyers talk about is the rate at which they bill out.
Yeah,
So they might bill out at somewhere between 500 and $1,000 an hour. But then when you're like, no, 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 how much money do you make? It's normally 50% of that
yeah,
because the rest of it is consumed by all the support that they need and everything else. And that's really what we need to understand because for somebody who is at a hourly rate of about 250, if they were working 40 hours a week, that's an income of $520,000 a year.
yeah,
Now, are there agents that make that? You bet there are, right? There are agents that make far more than that, and we've actually had some of them interviewed here over the last few weeks.
yeah,
But that's something where I think for people that maybe don't see this or haven't traveled that path far enough, it's really important to understand where they're coming from because some people are talking about what they bill out at, some people are talking about revenue,
no,
very few people are talking about income, but these things
yeah.
are all important.
Well, it's like the real estate's very much built on like what's your gross revenue, what's or like the other one where it's like the gross volume of the value of the homes you sold, which I don't care about that number typically. I literally look at like number of deals is a better one. But like at the end of the day, it's take home, right? Like you and I both know a ton of agents who, they might gross 1 million in commission and they take home like 50 grand.
Yeah,
And
very
then
little.
I know other agents who do 400 grand who take home 300.
Mhm.
Like that's a huge difference that not enough people talk about that piece. Like when we did that team leader mastermind, most I think teams were kind of saying they were in that 16 to 23% margin range.
Mhm.
But like one of them was at 68 is like their warning sign of we're in trouble because we're dipping. They're typically around like 72, 73% margins, right? Like if you dial it in, you know what you're doing, you can get there.
Yeah, and that also is like who's doing what. So in some
Yeah,
cases, you might have this like 30% margin, but that's because you have staff that are doing the majority of
yeah,
the heavy lifting, and that will mean that you have a lower margin, and then you should be looking at higher volume.
yeah,
And then there's other people that tell me like, "Oh man, I make like 90%. It's 90% take home." And it's like, "Well, you really need to understand, do you want a whole grape or half a watermelon?"
yeah,
Because it's really tough to make a watermelon if you're paying yourself so much because the people competing with you don't have the same approach. Most of the team leaders that I know, they're using almost 50% of their money to fight you, meaning that like of all the commissions that they make, the systems that they run are designed to keep them off that real estate roller coaster. And that's the thing that we're most familiar with. And what we're seeing a lot throughout Canada right now is that people will find clients, they will be spending their time serving those clients. But during that time, if they don't have anything that is automated, if they don't have systems, or if they just fail to also lead generate at the time of doing those revenue generating activities, the roller coaster takes this wicked veer off,
yeah,
right? And if it just happens to go down at the same time that there's a market shuffle or you're not positioned in the right spot in the market, it's called a double down. And that's
yeah.
where you'll see even the biggest planes touch the ground.
Yeah. And if you are like building a team out, your margins are going to plummet for a few years. Like you have to invest. Like if you once you get to a point where you're like, I know predictably every year this is what I'm going to do, that you can get a very consistent margin. But if you're kind of, doing 30, 40 deals a year on your own and you're like, all right, I want to build a team, get to 100, during that phase, like you might go down to like 5% even very easily as you're building everything out. Like it's very, very easy to blow your margins. Like I did that when we were growing at one point. Like I remember those are some of like the biggest mistakes I made early on is like I'm like, all right, I gotta grow, I need to hire people to help. And then it's like I just bought way too much stuff. I hired too many people. And then I was like, oh shit. I have to figure this out now. This was not a smart decision. I learned the hard way on that one.
I learned
Um,
the hard way on a lot of things. I'm super
yeah,
dedicated to ideas, whether they're good or not.
yeah. I've gotten better at cutting loose on things though. Like I used to do that of like, no, I'm gonna be stubborn. I'm gonna make it work. And then now it's like, no. It's the Dan Martell thing. If it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no.
Yeah, yeah, but you got to get in there. And in
Yeah,
order to get perspective to know what to do, you have to do a lot of things wrong. And
yeah,
I think the most effective approach is be okay with making mistakes, but don't make them
yeah,
twice. Like
yeah. Or at
learn
least
each
learn from
time you
them.
take a
Yeah.
tumble.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like I did an article recently on REM, and like I love this line. I wish I'd come up with it, but I hadn't. And it's like do you have 10 years of experience or do you have 1 year of experience repeated 9 times?
Yeah. You know
Right?
what they
Like
used to
that's
say
such
about
a difference.
goldfish? Like every time they drive around, every time they swim around the bowl, they're like, "Ooh, it's a castle,"
Yeah.
right? I definitely have met agents like that.
Oh yeah, like that's why like if someone says I've been in the industry for 30 years, listen to me. I'm like, well, first I have to learn what your experience is like
Yeah.
in that time.
How did those 30 years go?
Yeah. Like did you
Right?
work
Because
for half
it
of them?
is your only ability to survive.
No. Where do you have
But
a
we're
good
seeing that
healthy
a lot
business?
in markets throughout Canada because we're seeing a lot of markets that were hot that aren't hot anymore. We're seeing some markets that are still hot. If you're in the chat right now, I would love to hear how you see your market. Like we got Ron from Vancouver right now. My
Yeah.
understanding of Vancouver is definitely an outside view of it. I also know because we've been talking to Ryan and Miles that we've been seeing that Lethbridge is kind of like picking up, right? We've also got somebody who works just outside of Calgary, Sundry Cochrane, Rocky
Yeah.
Mountain House. I heard Cochrane is screaming.
Yeah. Or is there at Collingwood? I'm curious there because it's a little bit different than the Toronto market. I'll be in Collingwood on Sunday.
Yeah, and Gerard is a
Yeah.
mortgage broker
Yeah.
that followed the real estate magazine links into here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Ron's
I
talking
was
about very, very slow.
Yeah, that's Vancouver. Yeah, I think like Toronto, Vancouver, like I can't speak for Vancouver on this part, but like people I talked to in Toronto, like the move-in ready freeholds, those are moving. Condos dead. New construction dead. Everything that's not moving ready pretty much dead. Although the all like the higher end 10 million plus are moving, which is interesting.
Wild.
Yeah.
Sometimes those move like I see the market in different levels as also different functions. So in the
Yeah.
middle of most markets near the average, I would refer to them as a utility market. And it's kind of like the appliances you own. Like how many people get a new fridge unless their current fridge no longer is working properly?
Yeah.
I don't think that many. They wait for it to wear out. So families near the middle are normally buying that extra bedroom. Maybe they got more money at work and now they're looking to like upgrade their lifestyle, but it's a very
Yeah.
utilitarian approach. Where as soon as you get into maybe it's 50% over the average and above, well, in that case, we're starting to get into this want-in market that's more like cell phones. So most people do not wait for their current cell phone to break. I don't think a single realtor does that. And instead, what they're seeing is new features rolling out and they want the hot new thing. And
Yeah.
that creates a problem when hot markets go down because most of the people that are way above average, those groups can buy before they sell. And when the market goes down, they get so sharky.
Yeah.
Because normally, the higher in price range you go, it's kind of like balancing a broomstick on your hand. When it goes this way, it goes down. When it goes this way, it goes up. But the higher up on the broomstick you go, the more it sways. When
Yeah.
markets go down, that luxury stuff tumbles a ton. I think Muskoka has seen a ton of that.
Yeah.
And then when markets go up, that top stuff really flies. And that's where I'm at in Edmonton right now. Like I did an analysis for a property that was just over 1 million, which is about twice our average. And in that neighborhood, normally what I would expect to see is like one buyer for two sellers.
Yeah.
But of the 19 properties that had left the market in the last 90 days, 17 had sold, and the average sale price is 102% of list price. That's normal now. So we can see that that part of our market is really starting to swing upwards.
Yeah. And that's like, I mean, yeah, like we've talked about many times on the show, like you're basically getting the Toronto style market of the last 15 years. Like, but that's always the, like the biggest shift I've noticed with like thinking of like just sell homes clients, because we do a lot of like ads for listings. The last year, every month's like a new record for most amount of listing ads ordered. Because what used to happen was all the agents who would say, I don't need to market, it's just going to sell, which is the wrong approach. Like you got to leverage the listing to get more clients out of it, which we talk about all the time on the show. Like that's one of you. Like if you're a successful team and you know consistently you're going to have 3 to 5 listings a month, you could run your entire marketing only promoting your listings with nothing else, and you're just like doing it different ways. And that's like it's such a that's what everyone wants is houses. So it's such
Yeah,
an
like
easy thing
when
to
you were
take
to divide the
advantage.
audience that's watching, so the audience that
Yeah.
you want to work with, not this audience that's here right now, but the audience for realtors, and you were to make a pie chart, how many of them do you think are looking for a house and how many of them do you think are looking for a realtor?
100% want the house.
I actually think that there's somewhere between 5 and 10% that are shopping for a realtor, but often this is a group that has already had an experience with a realtor that's gone poorly. Like they listed a property and it didn't result in a sale.
But even
That
then,
group
they're
now
still
is looking
looking
for
at
a
the
realtor.
house. They're finding the realtor to help them facilitate the fact that like this is how we get sellers sometimes is like seller leads are expensive, right? Like running straight seller campaigns. Now, depending on how you do it, they can be good quality, but like if your goal is just maximum volume of leads and you want sellers, go to where sellers are going. Because at the end of the day,
Buying.
like yeah, like the buy side for them, like very, very few. There are some exceptions to this. Do you have sellers that aren't also buying? Like again, there are exceptions. There's some investors who are cashing out. There's people who might be moving, but you can still get the referral potentially out of your area. Like there are, or like maybe they're downsizing and like going into a home, or they're selling their house and moving in with a new spouse. Like certainly there are scenarios where there's a sale but not a buy. But like that is the easiest way to get seller leads now is just focus on where they're going.
Absolutely.
Talk about that.
And that's how we reveal a lot of the people that want to sell is that they come and engage us on stuff that they want to buy.
No,
And then we work it out from there. Most of my marketing is around that. So you
no,
market your listings and then you circle prospect around them. We're running out a new listing here right now.
no,
Um, the way that we have done it is Just Sell Homes has been helping us create a newsletter list. We call it the Hack and Co Insiders because in my market, inventory is low, so houses are exciting and they come on and off the realtor.ca system really quickly. So people are interested in stuff before it gets to MLS, and that's what we're trying to capitalize on. So we use the 72 hours of coming soon before the listing goes live. We use this newsletter list even before the coming soon because we can talk to these people directly. And then when the property comes, we try to make it big in the neighborhood. We deliver coming soon signs. We flip them over to new listing signs. They go to open house and back to new listing over the weekend as the open houses are done. And then they're all disappear because we're going to do multiple offers that night.
no.
So we're in that rinse and repeat type of situation. But there's people in slow markets that are still looking for houses. And it's all about just finding the key to their lock. Like I remember when I was in a market similar to Ron's, where he's saying it's very, very slow. What I needed to do is change my market from looking for qualified sellers to looking for qualified buyers. And
It's a big
then
one.
the biggest people that I wanted to talk to is the people that the market fit. So my whole real estate career is revealing the winners and then helping them win. And in a down market, buyers do better. But if you're buying more than you're selling, you are a buyer. Let's take a little beating on this sale and then just go up market and hammer them, right? That's the idea. So finding those opportunities and letting those people know that they do have an opportunity, that's the secret. Because when markets are moving downward, I think that the biggest battle is battle against fear.
No. So, and from a marketing standpoint, like how we look, because like obviously market change, like I was working with a client where they did client interviews. And when we were looking at like something's off, they were done in 2021. And so like completely different market from where they were now. And there's actually a little AI thing we've started doing is we're using deep research, but saying only look at the past 3 months, but act as a copywriter doing voice of customer research. And it then surfaces the insights how they're talking about it in that area. So you could like taking Vancouver there as the example, be like, all right, act as a copywriter. I'm going to do voice of customer research on home buyers and home sellers in Vancouver in the last 3 months. I want you to search every online forum, social media that you can, and build me a full custom voice of customer report. Then that takes, 10, 15 minutes. It surfaces it. And like they'll ask you a couple questions typically every time you do it. It's like, do you want this? I just say yes to everything. I want it all. And I just did that recently as a test. I did like first was like how you regularly write ads, and then deep research followed by now write the ad based on the voice of customer research. And it was amazing, like the ads that came out of it. And like that's such a simple thing to do. And like we also do it from the perspective of there's a secondary step I'm going to add in there, which I think is going to take it up a notch, which is do the voice of customer research. Now act as a psychologist and give me psychological profiles of these people. Now act as a copywriter and pair the voice of customer research with the psychological profiles of these people. And you'd be surprised at how well those ads now resonate with people. But it's like you have to tell it to do those steps of like the voice of customer and then add the psychological profile to it. And
Hmm.
super simple to type it out and tell it to do it, but impact makes your ads so much better.
And you're calling it voice of customer.
So voice of customer research is a very, very like this is something going back years and years and years. Super effective. Like every good copywriter will do voice of customer. Like essentially all copywriting is, which we've talked about, is like for a good copywriter. And this is why good copywriters were expensive for a long time and still are to a degree, is they'll just go and interview past clients of yours and people in the market. And let's say like they keep saying the same thing, like because I saw it in the chat there from Aspen of like acreages in his area are going crazy. Well, in another area, that might be called rural homes. Another area that might be homes with a big yard, but he says acreages. So if I'm running the ad in his area, I probably have to say acreages. So that's what a copywriter is doing. They're learning how are people in your area specifically articulating their pain points, their frustrations, and their desires. And our copywriting is copying those and putting them in the ad in a clever way. And I'm just taking their words and saying it back to them. Like when you have a good copy done that way, your people should like basically say things to you along the lines of like, I feel like you were in my head and taking the words right out of there. Like I did this recently with a program we did. Like we've this few times we've done the workshop this year around like how to get 12 more deals from Instagram in the next 12 months. And the one line that probably sold the most people was how to get 12 deals over the next 12 months from Instagram without silly little dances or sharing every detail of your personal life. That's not me just like being like clever. That is literally when I do the voice of customer research, every single person that wants to be on Instagram but has a blocker is because they think they have to do silly little dances or they don't want to share details of their personal life. So just adding that is, and the amount of people who reach out and say like, yeah, I was literally just saying this to like my marketing person or like my every time like the marketing person would be like every time I'm trying to get my boss to film a video, like every time I try to get Taylor to shoot this reel for me, he's like, I'm not doing a dance. I'm not going to share my personal life. I'm like, great, you don't have to. Here's how you actually do it. But like literally, but word for word, that's what they'd say is like silly little dances. And so I just put silly little dances right in the copy. And that's what makes it work. So it's like doing that with whether you're using Grok or GPT, I use ChatGPT or Claude or any of them, deep research, voice, and specifically say I want to act as a copywriter and do the voice of customer research for me.
Hmm.
and then have
Okay,
them write
so
it.
I've been kind of hammering this out while you've been talking so that people could get a rough idea. I used a very basic prompt. You could probably
Yeah.
improve it on this, but I was following Andrew's instructions. And if we were talking about the Vancouver market, the lead headline is hesitation and waiting for drops.
No.
And I think that there's a lot of people that would agree with that. They're talking about how users on Reddit emphasized financial responsibility. I just can't justify trading my 2K a month rent for a 4K a month mortgage. Um, the other thing that they were talking about is affordability changes.
Yeah.
So prices still need to decline 25 to 40% is something that is within like these parameters. This is what people are actually saying in the market. And I want you to know a lot of the things that they're saying are going to be uninformed. They're not going to be what you would want to hear, but they're a place to start with these people. Because if you were talking about, like, some people are thinking that they're going to wait for the market to decline 25 to 40%. And based on history, it's actually unlikely that they will participate in real estate if that was their only criteria.
Okay. Put this prompt in that I just put in the chat now. Reply to that with that.
Roger that.
Should be
For
in
those
the
people
chat here
listening,
on
could
Zoom.
you expand on that?
Yeah, so in the if you're not actually here live and you want it, so I just wrote the prompt that I'm giving him says, okay, now each of the following people should leverage that research and write the best ad possible for getting home buyers to reach out to book a consultation. Now, before like I go read the list of people, you can change that depending on what your ad's about. If it's a list of homes, say like get a list buyers reach out to get a list of acreages in Cochrane, right? Like you can do something like that. And then the names I gave were Joanna Weeb, Talia Wolf, Nicholas Kuzmich, Alex Hermosi, Dan Kennedy, Gary Halbert, David Ogilvy, Dan Martell, Ryan Dice, Russell Brunson, and then Brandon Sanderson, who's my wild card. Brandon Sanderson's a fiction author who writes like fantasy novels. Um, it's super random, but you would be surprised sometimes when you add in like something like that, it comes out pretty well. Um,
This is something that both Andrew and I do, and if you're not familiar with it, it's based on the theory from a book called Who Not How, of who you should talk to instead of how you should do something. And because a lot of the people that Andrew mentioned have public, like they have public knowledge.
yeah,
Their information has been put out in books and blogs and talked about all over the internet. So we believe that the large language model would actually be able to gather things and give us kind of mimicry, almost like a parrot.
yeah.
In this case, we take a look at Joanna Wiebe, who's a conversion copywriter, and she would start with tired of watching Vancouver's real estate prices drop while you're sitting and still renting. Let's turn that hesitation into your dream home. And then she takes it around and says, "Look, I get it. You've been scrolling Reddit threads, seeing folks rant about how prices need to crash another 25 to 40% before it's reasonable. You're priced out, frustrated by wages, and don't match $1 million averages, and scared of buying." So they're just identifying all of the concerns so that those people feel that they're heard.
Yeah.
In my mind, this kind of looks like the map of the mall because I suck at navigating malls. And then they always show like the "you are here." And if your marketing can make somebody feel like you are here and here's how to navigate to where you want to go, that's the stuff that sizzles.
No. And I'd be curious. So, like the other one, like I'm curious how the Kuzmich, the Ogilvy, and then the Brandon Sanderson one also read if you did all of them.
Yeah, yeah. So Nicholas Kuzmich, so he is a high ticket Facebook ads strategist.
That's where
So
I learned
just
most of my stuff
understand
from.
the take that they would come from. And his headline would be Vancouver buyers unlock 20 to 30% price drops without the guesswork. Free strategy call inside. So he goes leads with the call
Yeah.
to action. And then if you're like the thousands of forums debating Vancouver's cooling market, high inventory, stagnant sales, and sellers turning desperate, you know the window for deals is open. But high interest rates and economic jitters have you hesitating. Am I buying at the bottom, or if this just the start of a crash? So I like that because that's something that I'd constantly talk to people about when my market was down. I would say, hey,
Yeah.
listen, the only place that you can accurately see the bottom is in the rear view mirror. So if you're looking to time the bottom, you're actually going to pass it before you time it.
Yeah.
The other one that you wanted me to take a look at was which one? Ogilvy?
Brandon's Ogilvy and Brandon Sanderson, because I'm always just curious on the fiction writers. Sometimes they just nail it. Other times it's complete trash, but
Okay, Ogilvy is a research-based advertising pioneer,
Yeah,
and his headline is "At last, the facts about Vancouver's real estate opportunity backed by market data." Research shows in the last 3 months, Vancouver sales hit rock bottom. Inventory soared to record highs, and prices fell 20 to 30% in key segments. Buyers like you cite unaffordability and fear of deeper corrections as top barriers. Yet 70% of forum discussions highlight that this is the best time in 4 years for long term purchases. Pretty strong
yeah,
start.
yeah. You have to double check some of those facts and stuff, and I'd be hesitant about actually saying we've hit rock bottom. Um, but like it's the first draft. You still gotta workshop the draft. So like how I typically will do it, I'll be like, I like this version, and this version. Give me a hybrid of the three,
Hmm.
and then I'll workshop from there.
Well, let's hit Brandon Sanderson,
Yeah,
storytelling master, fantasy author.
yeah.
Headline: Forge your epic tale in Vancouver's
Ooh,
forged
bad
market.
start.
A consultation quest awaits. So if you
Yeah,
were marketing directly to people that role play, this is your
yeah,
guy. And then he says, in the realm of Vancouver, a great unraveling unfolds. And it
yeah.
and
That
it
doesn't work.
really sounds a lot like Game of
Yeah.
Thrones.
Like literally, so like this is where like once in a while it does like the one that I did from him earlier. Hold on, see if I can pull it up here. It was for a software for home inspectors. Um, and it's imagine this: you finish your second inspection of the day, the sun's setting, you're tired, you haven't eaten, and yet you're done because your report was already writing itself as you worked. You open your laptop, review, click send. We've already emailed the client, scheduled to follow up. The day ends, you're not behind, you're ahead. That's the magic of our software. Try it free today. Like that was a pretty good one from one that you would like none of that like welcome to the realm and the shadow realm and doing all this stuff. So like there I'd probably be like I would want to reply to that one and be like take the fantasy elements out, just use his writing style.
Hmm.
And then the other one I do was just something say I pick a winner. So I will take like I'll say like and just do this as examples. Pick three of the names. I don't even care which ones for now, and say give me a hybrid version of these three. They're my favorite.
Okay, so
Pick
of
any
that,
three.
I'm going to choose Joanna Weeb. I'm also going to go with Talia Wolf, who is an emotional conversion optimizer.
Yeah, she's
And
awesome.
somebody who's super hot right now is Alex Hormozy.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, like just for people watching, when you're picking names, like you'll like go look them up and see which one like fits your style. Like a lot of it is just the style they write in. It also has to resonate with your brain and what you want to do. Um, Thanks for coming, Gerard. We'll have the link up Monday morning. It'll go live on YouTube, so you can catch the rest. Um, but yeah, so yeah, so put the three in. Ooh, someone's at my door. I'm going to ignore that. Um, who is that? But no one's home right now, so I might have to tell them to go. Unless, oh,
You
because
do
it's
you.
summer. Yeah,
I'll dig
you.
into this combo.
Oh, yeah, no, that's just someone going door to door. I hope it's a realtor because that'd be funnier.
That would be funner.
He's got a shirt on, so I'm guessing he's like the gutters or something. Um, he's got like one of those looking ones.
Or he's the
What?
newest realtor, Magic Mike.
No, it's clearly like Wolf Polo branded.
Oh, I
Most
thought you
realtors
said he
have.
had taken his shirt off.
No, no. He
What
left. We're
neighborhood do
good.
you live in?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Okay, so I did the combination of the three,
Yeah,
and what I ended up with is tired of the emotional tug of war in Vancouver's crashing market. Get $1,000 in free insights to turn fear into your forever home. Listen, I hear you loud and clear from those late night Reddit scrolls and X threads. You're watching prices drop 20 to 30% amid inventory and desperate sellers. But you're still stuck renting because I just can't justify 4K in mortgages on 2K rent vibes for or feeling it's all a silent collapse that could sink further. That knot in your stomach, the hesitation from unaffordability, the anxiety of overcoming or the anxiety over economic hits like tariffs and job losses, it's real. And it's keeping you from the relief of finally owning a place that's yours. This actually like needs some work, but it's
yeah,
tying into something that I think more people in hard markets should understand. The news is showing fear. And some people think that the news is causing fear, but I know that news is more so mirroring the emotions. They're trying to sell things, so they're doing things like voice research, and
Yeah.
then they're catering to it, right? With headlines that we are like, oh, this is irritating. You're causing people fear. And that's how I felt for a long time. But then I realized that the emotion is really a great way to get in because a lot of these families are scared by the news. They're afraid of being a financial idiot and taking
Yeah.
part in a market and having all their friends be like, "Oh man, you just bought something that's dropping like a
Yeah.
rock." But the truth is that they need an extra bedroom. That matters more than money to families.
Yep. So I just added in a reply for you to add in now, and I'll read it out for people while you do it. And it's act as Harriet McDougal, and you're the editor in charge of making this ad ready to publish. Have her rate it out of 10, explain their rating and what it would take to be a 10 out of 10. Have her reference the voice of customer research in her feedback. She is also in the fantasy world. She edited my favorite book series that her husband wrote. But I found that she does a really good job if you use her name of like tying it all into a single tight narrative.
I like that you chose an editor. I think that
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of people wouldn't be able to see, but from your vantage point, it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is what she came back with. She rated it at an 8 out of 10 of what we had already. And she says it's a strong hybrid approach. She talks about the people that we blended. And then the headline grabs attention by addressing the emotional tug of war. She really liked that. Also, talking about the knot in the stomach and so on. And then where she said that it falls short is a few areas, brevity and flow. She would like to see it closer to 250 words because she feels as though we're going to lose the audience. And then some sentences stack clauses a bit densely, potentially diluting the emotional punch. So it should be like more pointed. To elevate it to a 10 out of 10, we need to trim it to by 20 to 30% for tighter pacing. Much like I insisted on pruning repetitive exposition of Wheel of Time manuscripts, while amplifying the emotional resolution with a brief success vignette. Imagine negotiating a $1 million below peak deal like forum users are snagging now. And then talking about proof, join buyers who've turned 25% developer discounts into a reality.
So it's then you just say like, okay, write out the final copy of the ad, and that's like so like at this point, this is where I'll come in and like make my edits, where like I will rewrite it. But then I bring my version back into it and be like, all right, everyone that's commented, have them all rate this ad. But like typically, I will go through the research, the copywriters, and the editor that I pick for that one. All have them create my first draft. Then I come in and do my thing.
Well, this is a great example of a flow. So,
Yeah.
what you initially want is to go back and forth with an large language model to start to round out your idea,
Yeah.
and then to basically almost like attack it from different angles. That's why we're using different authors and things so that you can start to get options. And your options would be like, oh man, I like this headline and I like this body and I like this other part. But one of the big elements is to be the human in the loop, which means
Yeah.
that this stuff should only get you like 60, 70% there. And then you go in and tighten it up yourself and use language that you see people actually in your market and kind of make it yours.
And so the next one, and hold on, I'm gonna give you another prompt to follow up the final version with that they output for you.
Mhm. Now, while Andrew's getting that set up, right now, my team is doing something that I call raising a GPT. And what that means is that every Friday we get together for Grindstone and we talk about the things that we've used our assistant for so that we can get best practices. And then we also talk about where it's failing us. Hey, where is it actually doing stuff that's weird? Where is it not accurate enough? Is there something you're trying to do that you can't do? And we come up with ways to actually improve the custom GPT by giving it more context, criteria. There's a few elements that you can adjust. Might need more detailed instructions. And when you put that information in, your GPT kind of grows almost like a child. And in the beginning, you have to be a huge human in the loop, almost like a parent. But over time, that child will grow as long as you feed it. And then eventually it will become the perfect companion.
Yeah. So here's the prompt now to go to the next one, which is act as Donald Miller, who is the author of Story Brand, which we can explain after, and play the role of 10th man rule, which I'll explain. I want him to not just cheerlead. I want real feedback that shows where it won't work, and then a final verdict of what would make him rated a 10 out of 10. So there's a lot there to unpack if you're not familiar with the different ones. So one, Donald Miller, Story Brand, good guy to use for this type of rule. A 10th man rule is the concept of if nine people agree on something, it's the job of the 10th man to disagree. Even if he agrees with the other nine, his job is to disagree. So ChatGPT knows what the 10th man rule is. And I find that because ChatGPT can be too much of a cheerleader with stuff, even if it is a bad idea, that making it confront that directly helps surface better ideas. And I specifically say, like, I want real feedback that shows where it won't work, because otherwise everything's amazing all the time. And then a final verdict of what would make it rated a 10 out of 10.
And if you haven't accessed the book is called Building a Story Brand. What it's about is that in most people's mind, they are the hero of their own story. However, in most marketing, we're presenting ourselves as a hero, which means that we don't actually have a place in their story. So if you like Star Wars, you have to identify that they're Luke Skywalker. They've already been cast as the hero, and so you don't get in their story if you also want to be a hero.
Yeah.
But if you want to be Obi-Wan, a great guide, that option is available to you. And so that's how you should position is that you're the catalyst that helps the hero succeed. In Star Wars, like Luke was in a swamp and didn't really have much of a way out, right? He had none of his future abilities, and that was where that changed. And I really do believe that we take people through like a transformation. When they come to us, if they could just order what they want like Amazon, there would be none of us. But the truth is that they need more context, they need to acclimate to the market, but we need to do a good job of staying out of their way. So the way that this prompt came out is basically as Donald Miller, making the customer the hero, identifying their problems, and positioning yourself as the guide is key. So stepping into that 10th man role is a bit of reluctance, but full commitment. You see, the 10-man rule isn't about being a contrarian for kicks. It's about forcing the group to confront blind spots and avoid the echo chamber that leads to bad decisions. So first off, they applaud what's solid. The ad nails the story brand basics. It positions the buyer as the hero in an emotional tug of war. It names the external problems, market crashes and unaffordability, and internal ones, fear and hesitation. And it offers the consultation as the guide's plan with a juicy $1,000 value hook. It pulls directly from the voice of customer research, echoing what Reddit says and what X says about rent versus mortgage dilemmas. But here's where the 10th man pipes up. This ad risks alienating buyers by overhyping a crashing market that's showing early signs of stabilization, not Armageddon. Your original voice of customer painted a picture of 20 to 30% price drops, desperate sellers slashing $1 million off peaks, and full-on buyer's bonanza. But as of mid 2025, the data tells more of a nuanced story. Average home prices in the greater Vancouver area are down just 5.7% to 1.27 million in total, with detached and condos off about 3.2% year over year. Sales dipped under 10% year over year. So it's saying that that part is less defined, so that it may look like you're fear mongering. And then it also talks about even doomsayers on X are focusing on developer desperation and a final phase bubble pop, but not the dramatic 20 to 40% corrections that your ad leans on. So just like Andrew said, you're going to have to double check this numbers. Well, the 10th man is telling you that this stuff is way off.
Yeah, but even the 10th man numbers are giving you have to go check that those are real numbers they're mentioning too, because ChatGPT makes up shit.
Yes. Whereas, so I'm using Grok right now.
Yeah.
And the reason that I'm using Grok for voice of customer is because Grok is tied to live conversations like X. It also really like prefers user-driven data like Reddit. But you
Yeah.
also have to understand that the people that go on X and Reddit are a particular profile,
And
right?
they're more negative.
They are definitely more negative
Yeah.
and very buzzy.
Yeah.
Whereas you might see different experiences if you were searching on Facebook. But the problem with ChatGPT is, yes, it'll web around a little bit, but it's really tied to a knowledge base that's like 2 or 3 years old. And that
Yeah.
may not be effective for your market. In fact, that's actually a lot of the problem that people in the market experience is that most of the public is operating on information that's at least 4 months old. So the truth is like if somebody was using tactics in my market from 4 months ago, they're probably not going to do very well because our market is heated up in the middle. Now it looks like the upper end is coming up. And before 4 months ago, you could attack that upper end. So this is kind of interesting. So the final verdict is that our 10th man, Dawn, would rate us 7 out of 10. And to hit 10 out of 10, we've got to dial back the exaggeration, update stats to match current realities, and add success story vignette to show the after in a story brand style. Like picture walking away with a customized plan that turned a client's hesitation into $100,000 in savings on their forever home.
So now have it write the 10 out of 10 version to give you the final one there. And then I'm going to give you one last prompt to run it.
Okay, it's working on that.
All right. And then the last prompt, which you just have to change the last word. I typed ugly too fast. Now act as April Dunford and tell me how this ad positions me as a realtor in Vancouver as someone they might be considering hiring. I want you to give the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I like
So,
Ghoulie. Ghoulie actually sounds like
ugly.
ugly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that person's so
So
ghoulie.
gooey. That sounds like something they put on TikTok because they ban the word ugly.
Yeah, yeah. Like that person unalived that other
Yeah.
person. Hmm.
So April Dunford, positioning expert. I have her book somewhere here. She's fantastic. Yeah, it's actually the one right here. Obviously, awesome. She really thinks about positioning as a real like, how does this position me against this, position me against that? Yeah, like this stuff gives you a lot to think about. You still have to do the final ad. You still have to fact check the numbers. You still got to make sure it fits your branding. Like there's a lot there that you still have to do, but like all the stuff that like this types of prompting that we're doing right now, like just this phase, if you're doing things right, used to take anywhere when you add in the research, especially, could be 6 to 20 hours of work. And we
Mhm.
just got it done sitting here. Again, it's not going to be as good as a actual professional copywriter going and doing it, but it gets you 90% of the way there, which for most realtors is net better than 99% of what's out there.
Okay, so when we set up the revised version, the first thing I notice is it's much shorter. And then what we're seeing is that it's still using that unlock $1,000 in free insights from Alex Hermosi in the headline. But what we see is a lot more of Donald Miller's footprints here, where they talk about I hear you mirroring some of the concerns, and then switching the script and saying, but imagine flipping it like one client who turned doubt into $100,000 in savings. Now, when we say act as April Dunford, it looks like it's just about finished on that one. Look at that. You give it a lot to chew on.
I know. That's what I do. But like again, using that specific person makes it so much better usually the outputs because it's now putting it through their lens. Like think about how many different realtors are out there and the different styles that they have. You say act as a realtor and tell me this. It doesn't know which style to pull from. Same with like copywriters. There's some who are short and punchy, some who are long and story formatted. Like some are let's play to fears, others are let's play to hope. And it's like which style are you? You want to match it to the type of person who's going to do that. And that's where like using a name almost just acts as that type of filter for you.
Hmm. So they did a breakdown here where they talked about the good, which is strength in positioning you as the empathetic, value-driven guide. They talked about the bad, weak differentiation and vague category fit. While the ad does build trust, it doesn't clearly differentiate you from the sea of Vancouver agents claiming to be claiming market expertise, especially in a stabilizing scene where competitors are touting similar buyers market angles on X and Reddit. So it's not different enough. And then the ugly is where it gets dicey. The ad's urgency, navigate this window of negotiation power, and doomlit tone of cooling market and hesitation could backfire if the stabilization trend accelerates. So they're talking about how the data is actually softening, and it could be that we would actually want to reverse our situation and talk about what's like the hot new thing, which is market stabilization. And maybe the window of those deep deals for buyers might be closing.
Yeah. And like now it's just kind of you play. So like sometimes what I'll do in that situation is say, okay, now write an ad that April Dunford would like want to frame as a case study for how amazing this ad positions me as the best realtor in Vancouver. Um, because then you start getting it, okay, again, we're editing and getting that. I call this like draft 1.5. Um, I was just like, let's see. Because like sometimes what I'll do here is I'll go through this with different people. There is an element of too many cooks in the kitchen at times. And you have to then you might go back to an earlier version. Or sometimes if I'm not quite feeling it, I will go, all right, take every single person we've mentioned in this chat, simulate a debate on whether they think this ad will work and why or why not. And then I have them like make the fake people talk to each other. And then because you want to see the different viewpoints it's thinking through. And then I kind of go from there. But normally by this point, I'm taking it out, putting it into a Google Doc, and then I'm workshopping in the Google Doc myself.
So one of the big takeaways here is voice of customer research. This is something that if you haven't revised your buying and selling presentations, but your market has shifted, they're probably really off tone. And that's something that voice of customer research could help you nail. It might
Yeah.
surprise you of the things that people are saying. And also, you might be dismissing things that are important to people. Like one of the things that I hear over and over in my market is I don't want to get into a bidding war, right? And that's
Yeah.
because the folks are uninformed. In fact, I believe that complaining is the fastest way to communicate to others that you don't know how things work.
Now
And that's what
there,
they're doing. But they're calling out to us to actually elevate that language and say, well, actually, it's not a bidding war, it's a multiple offer situation. And a bidding war would denote that they're going to play you against the other one back and forth until they bleed you both dry. But
yeah,
the actual fact is that you're going to have market data to make a good offer. We're going to understand how many offers we're competing with. The number of offers is live market data. So I'm going to bring you historics, even up to last week, of what things sold for. But if there's still 8 people trying to buy this house, the market is talking to you right now.
yeah. And to be like, this is like though we're talking about like the voice of customer research. This is the like quick and dirty way to get it done today. But what you really got to think, which we did mention briefly earlier, but I want to hammer home, is like you are only getting this from that like 10 to 20% of people who actually comment online. And if your like ideal clients aren't the type who are going to do that, the only way to actually get their thoughts, what's in their head to do proper voice of customer research is to do interviews with them. And like if you're wondering how to do that and use AI, you'd have to be like, write me out questions as a copywriter doing voice customer research to ask my ideal clients to get the right insights from them. And then you have to go and jump on Zoom and interview them. And you can get like we just did this one where we just got 10 transcript, put it together and had it create the report based off the transcripts. But we actually had to go out and do those interviews. So you also this is where like knowing who your ideal client is so important. Are they people who are going to go on X? Are they people who are going to go on Reddit? Or are they people who will just shut up and never speak online anywhere? Because this is
Which is the
something that
vast majority.
because like this is a big thing like because I've been a big Twitter user for 15 years and like especially now that I own REM it's something that I see a lot and I've like talked with the team about it and things like that is that like Twitter is not real life, right? Like the people on both sides of the aisle who get really upset at something, that's not the majority of people who feel that way. Like, but that's the loudest voices that get amplified the most. So, like journalists, like I've noticed, like when we hire journalists at REM, one of the first things I do talk to them about is like, because most of them, like the people, the voices in the industry they know are is like who has the big followings on Twitter. And though like there are a lot of people who have like huge voices in the industry on Twitter who like outside of Twitter, no one even knows who they are, and they actually have no real reach otherwise. Right? Like it's one of those things where like, but that's all they see, so they assume that's what it is. But
Hmm.
and so it's like that's the bias that they can end up having is they put too much stock into this thing they're always seeing.
Yeah, and that's
And
why you really need to
yeah,
measure it because there's a whole bunch of people that seem to be influential online, but they're not actually influential, you
yeah.
know?
But it's just also just most people aren't like the people who go out and get outraged. Like Twitter is the perfect outrage platform because it's so easy and quick to get your thoughts out on something.
You can get your
Um,
thoughts out, but also the
yeah,
access to people to complain too.
yeah. It's like the whole thing, right? It's like you never go on Twitter to like to say good job this company for doing this. You're like screw you, Air Canada, you lost my bags, you're the worst. Um, and like the easiest engagement to get is once in a while just go on and be like, I just wanted to shout out and say great job, guys. Um, but like this is where it's understanding those nuances around like when we're asking AI to do something, like what is it like the information they're probably using to do this well? Um, is that going to create a bias for me? And like the thing like using Reddit and using Twitter for deep research, there's advantages to it, but you're also got to be very cognizant of what those limitations it's placing on you are. So it's like, don't rely exclusively on just that. Also think about like, what are my clients saying to me when I'm out with them? What are people telling me at open houses? And like write down after the open house, like exactly how they worded things to you. And you can put that in and have it use those lines in your ads too. Like I would typically create a note that I just have like called like voice of customer. And as things come up, I add to it. It's like, oh,
Mm.
like I haven't seen anyone word it that way, but now I've seen a few people word it that way. I'm gonna go add that in, so the next time I write an ad, I can now surface this latest thing into it. But like, for example, Facebook groups, with like as someone who targets realtors, Facebook groups is generally where more of you talk than Twitter or Reddit, which is what AI can see because
When we
AI
talk to
can't
each
get into
other.
private Facebook groups.
Hmm.
So, like for me, the more valuable research to a degree is there, but then you also got to remember, like a lot of the Facebook groups, if I'm targeting people doing like 100 plus deals a year, most of them don't spend their times in those groups.
And even then, that's still
Yeah.
probably the vocal minority.
Yeah. And so it's
Um,
knowing those little pieces and I still have, that's why like I still have to do the like Zoom interviews of people for proper voice of customer research. But if I'm like in a bind and have to move really fast, this is like the shortcut to doing it quicker.
well, this is also like a learning way to learn your way in. So you
Yeah.
can start by doing this, but if you're like me, you're really getting onto these AI note takers. And I can tell you that it's over a year now that every single one of my client appointments has been recorded.
Yeah.
So that means that I actually have a database that I should be able to access for voice of customer research. And that's where I'm going to take this. And then also keep in mind that eventually all of these LLMs will give you an Uber ride score. So I know that there's some people that are like, man, I'm always super polite when I type to ChatGPT, but
Yeah.
knowing what I know of computers, they actually wouldn't value that at all. That's
Yeah.
not a valuable input to them, and on top of that, it's actually a waste, like an inefficiency.
Well, they spend a lot of
Whereas
money on it.
a large language model would have incentives at the base level to acquire knowledge, and if you are the source of unique knowledge, you will very likely have a higher ride score than people that aren't. The people that will contribute to the knowledge base will be the most valuable through the eyes of artificial intelligence.
No. And they will keep like when you think about we talked about a couple weeks ago of like how to get recommended by ChatGPT, it's like as they get better too and get closer to actual intelligence, which I don't know how close they are yet or not. I don't think they're close.
I don't even think they're
But
heading the right direction.
no, maybe. I don't know enough about that side of it. But like they will learn things around like how do we measure if someone's actually because like we're pulling from 50 different places at once, they're going to get better at pulling those things, right? Like right now it's very simplistic how they surface people, but eventually they will add things in like, all right, the reviews, how do they talk about them? The comments on their social media posts, what do they say about them? And they'll start like pulling those things that maybe we would also pull, or like, how do they look at this? How is their approach here? How does this all show up? Like, it'll eventually start being able to pull those different threads the way that people do to kind of form an opinion. It's not there yet for that type of
Totally.
thing, but
Yeah, right
we'll
now
get
I
there.
see ChatGPT as an incredible parrot. It can mimic intelligence
Yeah,
greatly, right? But the idea that a parrot will become knowledgeable because it can say things is detached.
no,
Like there's a famous quote that's I think, therefore I am. But the way we're approaching artificial intelligence is we are, therefore we think, we are, therefore we think. And we know that's not true.
no.
I think there's a detachment, and I'm going to call it out. All of this fear of generative AI feels a lot like the Y2K bug. It
Yeah.
feels a lot like a whole bunch of people getting nervous about something that is not going to be in effect the same way we think it is.
Well, it's like how they said Web3 was going to completely change the internet and NFTs were going to change everything and all the money flew into it. It's like, yeah, AI, like honestly, I am so much more productive because of AI. I like it, like, for example, last night I rewrote REM's media kit, our secondary media kit, the email sequence that goes with it, and the copy that's going to go on the landing page. That typically is like a 3 week job I did in 4 hours. Like that is a huge boost, but it's like you can't just like then take that and say, okay, now if I just said, act as a marketing expert, go do this all for me, and then walk away and let it publish it, it would be trash because there's no thinking around it. But it's like knowing exactly, like I look at it as like I want to give it the very specific tactic and all the tools that I want done, and then I just go let it like do the bulk work of actually typing out the words. But like I've kind of constrained it into that right angle, and then I still go and edit it a lot.
Well, I love the idea that everybody comes and joins in. If you're not joined in right now, you can do that. This is done with a live audience. You can go to the Real Estate Magazine website. You can find the Leads Are Shit, our podcast. You can get the invite to the Zoom, and then you can come here and share. And if you do, you can actually stay late like some of the people here are going to because we're about to shut it down. It's the top of the hour. We want to make sure that you get out of here on time because we do value your time. So thank you everybody who joined us so far. He's Andrew, I'm Taylor, and we very much appreciate you. Maybe we'll see you live next time. And for those people that are live, hang on. We're going to head over to the private side where you guys can say a lot more of what you think.